Good evening and welcome to Ghana Shot. Today we're going to have a look at the next edition of Jaldi. And today the subject I've chosen is the Jaldi on the Chinese maze. Why? China is a maze, and the more you get into it, the more you get lost. But then I've been egging myself on to uncover whatever I could and whatever I can and put it across to all of you. But having said that, today morning, when I opened up the South China Morning Post, there's a portal which gives my news to me, the top five news events of the day. So rather small, but these five events were today something which I never imagined. So I thought I'll share it with you and call this the Jaldify and the maze. The first news: China faces tumbling blocks to boost economy in 2024. They're outlining it. They have geopolitical problems, their exports are down, their internal consumption is weak, so their economy, they've outlined everything for themselves that they're going to have problems. But then the next news talks of Xi Jinping. He's laying down plans to make China a financial superpower, but he also wants a risk. What's interesting is he wants to be a financial superpower, but he has not outlined how it will become. This is similar to his common prosperity, rejuvenation of the China dream, XYZ, big talk, no action. But then, let me spend a minute or two here on this. Xi Jinping, for all his commitment to being a communist and Maoist and all that, and he wants China to be a financial superpower. Only thing is, the methods he wants to adopt are to big corporations, state owned, and a command economy. And he's failing. Why is he failing? This is something which I'm going to talk of when I touch upon a subject called China versus China. Have a look at it when I talk about this. And I'm going to cover this headline back in detail there as to how Xi Jinping from 2012 to now has taken China back. And he now talks of being a financial superpower. It's a laugh. Right? The third news is about China's unemployment rate, especially of the youth. And this, they've declared it as 14.9% when adjusted. Why did I find this funny? 6 months back, their youth unemployment rate was crossing 20. It was, some people even said 25%. One fine day, they scrapped it. They said, no, this is not the right one. We're going to adjust it. So they've adjusted it and brought it back down by 5 to 10%. Now the youth unemployment rate is 15%. It is handleable. So hocus pocus. The whole world was saying it's over 20%. All of a sudden, China says after 6 months, 15%. But what's the problem ahead? This year, nearly 12 million, 11.9 or so million people are going to graduate from college, and they're going to be adding on to this figure. So this will edge back to 20% as per their figures, but in my estimate, it might be anything between 25 to 30% as per the old norms. Right? How they've adjusted these figures, you have to read this article for it. But it's all fake. Right? The fourth, suddenly economy is hit the target of 5.2% growth in 2023. This is what Li Kang, who is the Prime Minister of China, he said this in Davos. Again, it's very funny. Whole year, the economy is gone, economy is not taking off, economy is not taking off, yet they hit 5.2%. Obviously, they've hit it by just like that unemployment record. The numbers have been made up. Look, the funny thing about the GDP is that China is GDP fixated. It will not get off the GDP. For them, doing well on the GDP is more important than the quality of the GDP. This is what people have to understand, right? If I move from here to the end of my street and come back with something, done something and come back, it is GDP. The fact that I've not probably done anything, not achieved anything by going to the end of my street and coming back doesn't matter, but I've clocked GDP. For China, building a house is important. That's GDP. Whether someone stays in that house or not is irrelevant, right? It's important that they build roads, they build railways, everything where no one travels, but it contributes to GDP, right? So GDP is, I would say China has a lot of dead GDP. This is a term I have come to realize as I've dealt with China more often. There's a lot of dead GDP. So 5.2 is no, I mean, a good part of it would probably be of no use to man or beast, except for racking up numbers. Okay. And then the whammy, which has just come out. China's population has fallen by 2 million in 2023. Births tumbled to 9 million. For the first time in their history, they have clocked below 10 million births per annum. It's a steep fall. You don't lose 10% of your birth in 1 year. Okay. And now it's very clear that they've peaked and the slide has started. China is aging also. You go in this article, they talk of it. Today, China is an age society because they're nearing 20% of people over 65. So, aging society, no births, dwindling workforce, the demographic decline has started. And once demographic decline starts, no matter what anyone says, your society will change, societal tensions will go up, and issues will emerge. Right? They're going to have problems. We in the last episode I spoke of health risks. The health insurance schemes are not uh, even being subscribed to. So there are a lot of problems ahead, and we'll see it unfold. Probably sometime I'll have a whole, talk on this. But then these four today were accompanied by, rather, these five pieces of news, which comes as my news, I called it Jaldi 5, are accompanied by four other headlines, which I thought I'll share with you. Interesting, right? The first, China's strength gap with the US will widen, right, as competition deepens, the top political scientist says. He's very clear that they'll never catch up with China, US. They themselves are not talking. In fact, he's talking of the widening gap. This is yet another thing which substantiates what I spoke with General Dushant on why China will not recover. And now, in that episode, I compared the 18th Party Congress, the 19th Party Congress, and the 20th Party Congress outcomes and the issues, and came to a conclusion that China will not recover. As part of the next thing on China versus China, I'm going to see the Chinese performance against the World Bank come China document called China 2030. It's a fantastic document which lays out everything as to what China should do to become an economic superpower. But what has happened is something, and that is what is being now proven by all these. Even Xi Jinping talks of risks. He wants to be a financial superpower, but the risks. Demographic decline established in a matter of 11 years. That a report is of 2012, today's 2024, 12 years. Here they say uh, we'll never catch up with the US. And this is what Japan started saying last year. And I'll get the Japanese graph back uh, in the next episode when I discuss this China versus China. Then, of course, their property. And this property was predicted to be a macroeconomic shock in 2012. What do they say? China's home prices continue to decline with biggest drop in nearly 9 years. Right? Easing measures failed to buoy buyer confidence. So the property is still in a slump. It will be in a slump because people don't have nokri, they can't buy, and those who have 2 to 3 houses, who have invested their lives earning in houses, they don't see it grow, they can't sell, they're in pain. No one wants to buy, no one wants to sell. People want to sell, but they don't get their rates. If they don't get the rates, they will not sell. They're hoping one day it will go up, but it's not going to go up. It's a vicious cycle, which that's why I said maze. China is in a maze. Whichever way you go, China is going to hit a roadblock. That's something which may not people understand. Then, of course, you look at their stocks. Okay, their stocks are being hit left, right, and center. Since 2015, some of their stocks are trading at their lowest. Finances are gone out of their system. FDI is just not coming in. People don't want to buy Chinese stocks, nor they want to invest in China. I'm not saying all this. This is all from South China Morning Post. Okay. Important growth trails forecasts. Here is this on the same day. A premier says this hit the targets, and the stock market says growth trails forecasts. So you can imagine the maze. That's why the maze, the Chinese maze, right? And then, of course, what I said earlier, chronic disappointment. Global funds make big cut in China's stock allocation amid entrenched pessimism on economy policies. Entrenched pessimism. No one is prepared to invest in China. With some many people, might not believe it, but that's it. So you see this whole story. Where is the China story going? The China story is over. The new China story is something vastly different. Why am I coming out with this? Am I trying to say we in India are going? This is not a comparison between India and the China story. For me, to know all this is important as to how I deal with China, and that's something which I want to talk later. I'm not interested whether China goes up or not. Whether India goes up or not, I'm interested. But wherever we are at any given point of time, we have to deal with the China. And the China which is emerging, I think, is a dangerous China for the world and for us. And this is where I leave it today. Till the next, Jai Hind.